What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kinda Funny. I'm one of your hosts, SnowBikeMike, and today I am joined by my two incredible, awesome, and downright influential co-hosts, the Dovahkiin, also known as the King, and now the fortune teller, my man who can see into the future and knows all things Xbox and Bethesda, Mr. Parris Lilly. How you doing today, Parris? You feeling good?
I'm feeling pretty good. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well, but I will start off by saying this is not about being right or wrong. This is about looking at something. It just uses some common sense. That's it. That's literally all it's been this entire time. You don't spend $7.5 billion to keep things the same. That's all I'm saying.
Parris, you are the absolute best. And you know what? Today, it's all about you. You get to gloat, you get to be right, and you get to sit up there on the high throne and look down on me and Gary Whitta and so many others as you just wave at us as the king you are. But in all honesty, it is Bethesda Day here at the Kinda Funny Xcast. And we're going to celebrate all things Bethesda. We're going to talk about the fun, the memories, and of course, the future of what this awesome acquisition and merger will look like. But of course, I can't forget my second co-host. I call him the Doom Slayer, my man, the Rogue One, Mr. Gary Whitta. Gary, how you feeling today?
I'm good. I would like to point out that, like Parris, I also completely predicted this outcome, but only because I predicted every possible outcome at one point or another.
That's true. That's true.
If you put a chip on every number on the roulette table, one of them is going to come up.
Broken clock is right twice a day, Gary.
That's basically what I did. I predicted full exclusivity. I predicted the complete opposite. I predicted and every scenario. Every 50 shade of gray in between. I was like, it could be this, it could be that. Maybe it's a little column A, a little column B. Maybe it's all column A. Maybe it's all column B. So basically, whatever they eventually announced, I could show you a clip where I predicted it. Just don't look at all the other clips.
Exactly. You know what? Did you hear that, Parris? We guessed all the other outcomes. Yeah. We did our best. We were jumping left and right. We were on the fence. We were off the fence. We were on the fence. We were off it. Gary, you are the absolute best. And yes, you were right. Out of the 1,000 predictions you had, one of them was correct. And I'm so happy to hear you guys on a beautiful Friday. I'm so happy to share the energy and the fun with all of you because, of course, the ink is now dry. The deal is now done. One of the largest video game acquisitions in history is now complete. $7.5 billion. And the introduction of ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda, into the Xbox games family is now complete. 8 incredible development studios are on the way to share the fun, the laughter, the future, and of course, some cool tips and tricks to the Xbox family here coming up in the weeks, summer months, and the years coming soon. And I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. But before we get into the roundtable, the exclusivity talk, the big quotes that came out of this awesome presentation, I wanted to share some of our favorite Bethesda moments, Bethesda memories, because this is a studio, this is a team, this is multiple studios that have shared a long lineage of video games that so many of us have played, grew up on, and created memories with. And so I thought we'd at least start off the show with some fun and look back on the great times that we've had with Bethesda, and so we can look forward to what we're going to be seeing very, very soon. So I'll kick it over to Parris Lilly because I prepped him for this one to get him all ready. Parris, when I think of Bethesda, you see me wearing the sweater. I think of the blue and the yellow of Fallout. I think of Elder Scrolls and being the Dovahkiin. What kind of awesome things do you think about when you think about Bethesda?
Well, the fact that you're wearing that leads me right into what I want to talk about. It's two things, and they both deal with Fallout. So just from a game standpoint, I'll never forget that moment coming out of that vault the very first time with Fallout 3. And just the way the lighting and everything, it was almost like you're coming out of the dark and it's too bright, and then you're just seeing the entire wasteland world in front of you. It's always a moment that will stick out in my mind, and it's just fantastic because for me as a gamer, I never got into the Fallout games until Fallout 3. That was my first experience with Fallout and learning that whole world and lore of Fallout. So that moment coming out of the vault will always stick out to me. Now, my second one is from a creator standpoint, and this was 2010. It would have been right before the launch of Fallout New Vegas, and I got to interview Pete Hines for an hour talking about Fallout New Vegas, and it was such a memorable discussion for me because it went beyond just Fallout, and we got back all the way back to Elder Scrolls, and we started talking about horse armor and what DLC meant for the future. It's so funny thinking about it now to where we are in the world with microtransactions and everything, but having that conversation with Pete Hines back in 2010 always sticks out to me. And just from that moment on, he's always been one of my favorite people in the industry to talk to some scrub like me about video games for an hour. But yeah, those would be my two biggest moments. And then, just all the various Bethesda titles. Like, I'm such a huge Wolfenstein fan. I've really loved what Machine Games has done with that franchise. So I'm really anticipating what the third iteration potentially will be. But then I even think about Dishonored. I think about what Arcane has done with Dishonored, and it's such an underrated franchise that now that, and I'm sure we'll get into this later with all the Game Pass news coming out, people are going to get to discover Dishonored 1 and 2 and just see how great they are as well. So, hey, Bethesda fans, I think overall for gaming, this is it's going to be a really good moment for people that are fan of Bethesda IPs moving forward, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we move forward.
Yeah, shout out to the Clockwork Mansion in Dishonored 2. That was like one of the going throughout that level for the first time. That was like, I feel like I'm more of a casual player, more so compared to the rest of the people. It's kind of funny, but it was one of the few moments where I was like, it made me think a lot about game design as a whole. And it's just one of those impressive things that really makes you think about how everything connects. So yeah, shout out to Dishonored 2, playing that entire game for the first time. And then also shout out to I think it's the Crack in the Slab level as well, which is really, really impressive. And then on a story level with Bethesda games, Wolfenstein 2, again, like you shouted out, Parris. When you go back to the house, when you go back to your house for the first time as an adult, seriously, some of the coolest and craziest storytelling I've experienced in a game, and it's just some crazy standout moments from Bethesda and the studios that they have under them. Great place. Great company.
I love that, you two. Parris, I'll ask you one more as a follow-up before I go kick it over to Gary. As a father, have you and your family and your kids created any Bethesda memories? Do you notice them going towards any of these titles and playing any of them?
We messed around a little bit with Fallout Shelter.
Nice.
But not too much, because when that originally came out, my son was still pretty young. We'd probably have more fun with it now, but a little bit. And again, that was probably the most of a Bethesda title that we've really been able to engage with. I don't know about you, being a parent, I can't think of too many Bethesda titles I really would want to introduce to my kids, especially not Fallout or Wolfenstein, that's for sure.
Gary Whitta, give me some of your favorite Bethesda memories. I know you have been in the games industry forever. You know it all. You've seen it all. You got to have some really good ones, I'm sure.
I've been around a long time. I'm as old as dirt. And and I have a very, very long-standing relationship with some of these Bethesda, long before they were Bethesda franchises, because I was editor-in-chief of PC Gamer for many years back in the 90s. And PC gaming was I spent a long time as a PC gamer before I really moved into consoles as we got into the 2000s. And you have to remember that's where a lot of these franchises started. Doom, Wolfenstein, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. These are all PC games before they were console games. And I remember playing the earliest PC iterations. I'm old enough to remember playing Wolfenstein 3D when it first came out. I'm old enough to remember playing Doom when it first came out. And it's easy to take these kind of 3D games for granted now, but that shift from 2D to 3D, that was a huge, huge deal. We had never seen anything like that, and it was incredible. Well, that trifecta of Wolfenstein, Doom, and Quake, that was really kind of watching, like the Stone Age through kind of the Iron Age and Bronze Age of, now we're in the Space Age with these 3D games. But I remember watching like the beginnings of that genre, and it was really incredible to see, and equally incredible to see that those game franchises, not many games last this long. But Doom, which has been around since like the early 90s, still around today. Doom Eternal as strong as ever. And I actually had cause to go back and revisit some of these recently. I put a 3080 inside my PC recently and wanted to really put it through its paces. So I thought I'll fire up Doom Eternal, just because it was considered like the big flagship game to like really, really kind of show what your high-end 4K PC can do. But Doom's not really my cup of tea anymore. But like, I was like, man, Doom Eternal is actually really good. Like, I should go back and see what other games I've slept on. And I went back and started playing Wolfenstein: The New Order, which I didn't play when it came out. I totally missed out on it. And I was like, oh my god, this is fantastic. Machine Games, incredible. And I don't know how much you guys may have played it, but like, I don't want to get into spoilers because now these games are all dropping on Game Pass. A lot of people are going to be discovering them for the first time, as I just did recently. But just that first 30 minutes, that kind of air assault on Death's Head Island, just incredible. And that's before they even roll the credits.
Yeah.
And they did this amazing, they took, this character of BJ Blazkowicz, which was a character no one ever really took that seriously, kind of very thinly sketched character back in the old Wolfenstein days. And they really made these characters interesting and alive. And, the whole kind of fictional alternate universe narrative that they come up with, the Nazis really won the war, but we're still fighting back against them. I love all that shit. I love all that alternate history kind of stuff. And Wolfenstein does it so so well. I want to play New Colossus and the other Wolfenstein games. And I'm really excited to see them continue to make them now. Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls games and the Fallout games had never been my cup of tea. I actually played Fallout 1 and 2 before it went 3D, when it was still kind of isometric, more than the more recent ones. But I'm keen to kind of get back into them all, and especially now that we know that these games are going to, only go from strength to strength going forward. But, as I'm listening to you and Parris talk about these games and sharing your memories, and I'm sharing mine, it really just does bring home, again, I guess it's obvious, but it bears repeating. What a remarkable portfolio of games and developers and studios they've acquired with one stroke of a pen. Like you said, Arcane, Machine Games, Bethesda, id Software, one of the all-time greatest, game developers. id Software, Doom, Quake. It just goes on and on and on. It's an incredible portfolio of games, and it's almost like dropping all those titles on Game Pass this week was just kind of like a flex, right? To say like, look what we have now, right? It's just it's an incredible series of games spanning such a wide variety of, shooters, RPGs, horror games, Evil Within, all this kind of stuff. They have all this amazing stuff. They have more to come. Starfield. They have new things that we haven't even seen yet. So it's really a tremendous acquisition, and I'm very excited to see what comes next. I think we kind of halfway predicted this, but I do love that they dropped all those like, was it 20 titles on Game Pass? It's like, have a good weekend. You've got to love it.
Sharing the smiles with you too, and of course Barrett in the back there, really makes me so happy, and I'm sure it makes so many of our listeners happy as you reminisce and think about your favorite Bethesda memories. Right? I tried my best just to narrow it down to a couple, and I thought, man, I probably only have one or two games I really love. And as I started to look at the catalog, I was like, oh man, I've built so many fond memories with this team and what they've created. And it starts, of course, with Elder Scrolls Morrowind, and then into Oblivion. I have my Steelbook 5-year anniversary case. I have all of my strategy guides from Oblivion to Skyrim in my hands right now to show off. And it was funny.
Skyrim strategy guide. It's like a phone book.
It's a book. I have bookmarks in it, Gary. There's so much content in this. And it was really funny. I remember getting Elder Scrolls Morrowind, and I looked at my brother at the time, and that was original Xbox. We must have been pre-teens to early teens. And I said, what is this? And he goes, I don't know. I had mom buy it for us. And I remember being overwhelmed at the opportunity of choice, how big it was, how different it was to every game we've ever played before. And I remember thinking, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. And when Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out, I remember getting lost in it, right? Feeling that world, going out and closing those gates, fighting off the Daedric princes. And it was like so cool to get lost in such a giant open world, something I had never experienced truly and honestly in the gaming world. And so I have so much love and affection for the Elder Scrolls series and what it's created. And then I continued to move on, and I remember Fallout 3 and how important that was to me as a young adult. It was the first year I moved away from my house. I was 18 in a college dormitory, and I remember the kid next door, Matt, had his Xbox 360 there and had Fallout 3. And I remember every single night, myself and Ethan would sit on the couch and watch Matt play Fallout 3. And we would scream at him to tell him to use the VATS and kill that scary mole rat, kill that scorched zombie person. And it was so much fun to build that memory with those two who became my friends for a lifetime, right? It was my first time away from home. We bonded over video games, which I always talk about of how video games connect all of us in certain ways. And that was a special moment for me. And now, even to this day, right, I've always wanted Elder Scrolls and Fallout to be played with others, right? Sitting on that couch, we were playing together, but it was a single player game. And then they hit me with Elder Scrolls Online. They hit me with Fallout 76. And I was like, wow, they took my worlds that I love and they put it online where I can play with my friends. And there we were in Fallout 76, going out and building our own shelters. We were going out and finding points of interest together. We were fighting the Mothman, fighting off giant scorched beasts together. And of course, we had to take part in that battle royale. You know that because it was so much fun and so different. And it was crazy to think those really stand out to me. And a couple special ones for me is, like Gary said early in the days, we didn't grow up with the big PC. We didn't grow up with PC gaming. And so for me now to create memories and a bond with Doom and Wolfenstein with these new age games, it's like, oh my gosh, look at this ultra violent game, this fast paced first person shooter that I can't get enough of, right? I'm kicking Nazi ass. I'm killing scary aliens out in space. And it's just so much fun to think about the catalog. And I'm really blessed with all of that. And I'm so happy to have Bethesda in my life. And I'm so happy to have Bethesda now part of the Xbox family, somewhere that I call home, the ecosystem that I go to every single day. And so those are some big standouts to me that I wanted to spotlight.
Can I say this? Can I say this? Because I know we're going to deep dive into everything with the roundtable and all that, but I kind of want to just spotlight this one thing about what Xbox acquiring Bethesda, I think it just means for gaming, period. Like, you just told that entire story, Mike, and it's fantastic because I have so many memories along the same lines of everything that you just said. And I know a lot of people are going to want to focus on the whole exclusivity thing, and we'll talk about that, but throw that out of the window for a second. Forget that. This is so exciting for me because I feel like Bethesda gets to just be Bethesda now, right? Everything that you just said, Todd Howard and all those guys at all those studios get to just focus on making amazing games. They don't have to worry about any of the, oh, I need to release Dishonored out in this holiday window, but then it doesn't sell well because it's going against Call of Duty. They don't need to rush anything out. They can take their time. They can make sure all the QA's right. Everything's polished, ready to go. They can take risks in these universes with these various IPs that Bethesda has, because Xbox does all the heavy lifting, the stuff that's not fun. That's Phil Spencer's problem now. That's not Todd Howard's problem anymore. That's not Pete Hines' problem anymore. All they get to focus on is making games. And everything that you just said, Mike, the one thing about Bethesda I've always loved, I've loved so many of their IPs, but the one flaw that they've had has been what? They launch buggy. It became a running joke in the industry that their games launch buggy. Fallout 76, as an example, I've never played because of that, right? I would love to invest my time into something like Fallout 76 because that sounds fun to me, but it was so buggy at launch, I just moved on and probably just kept playing Destiny or something, right? But what excites me is Bethesda gets to continue to push and innovate in this industry. And then, we'll talk about the roundtable, but when they were talking about all the collaboration, and my mind just started to wonder, there's now 23 studios that get to collaborate together to make games. That's a great thing. No matter where you want to play your games and all that kind of stuff, if there's these new amazing experiences that are being created because of this partnership, we're the ones that win with that, right? And I think I would rather focus on that being the exciting thing that comes out of this than worrying about any of the other, nonsense that people like to argue about with exclusives and all that. But we're going to see, in my opinion, a leap in creativity because of this partnership. And that should be what gets everyone excited.
Hell yeah, Parris. That's the right thing to say. And that's exactly what we want to put a pin on and make sure everybody remembers as we head into this episode and we head out of it and we move back into our normal lives, our weekend of gaming. Always remember the fun and the positives. I want to highlight one last thing before we go. And of course, that's you, the community. Today, earlier, I put up a photo of me at my first ever E3. I got to go to the Bethesda event, thanks to Greg Miller and the team over there. And I was stunned. I think as a gamer, right, you always watch these events and he goes, guess what? You can play this game now on the show floor. And you're always like, man, I wish I could do that. And I finally got to live it where he was like, hey, guess what? Doom Eternal's playable now. You can go have fun outside. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, I'm living this moment, y'all. And it was really, really special to me. So I asked the community, I said, what are some of your favorite Bethesda moments and memories, and all of you came out. So thank you so much. So I'll read quickly off of Twitter. Want to give a nice highlight to Mr. Matty Plays, of course, one of the co-hosts of the Defining Duke podcast over there. He says, I don't think I've lost my mind quite like this since. And it's a photo of him reacting to the Fallout 4 trailer. If many of you remember that Fallout 4 trailer, it was bananas. And then they hit you with the, hey, guess what? This game is going to come out in about 4 months. So get ready and strap in.
God, and
so that was a special one. I want to give a big shout out to Johnny Vinyl. Johnny Vinyl has a nice photo of him in the mirror. And guess what he's got on, Gary Whitta? The BJ Blazkowicz coat. That sweet yellow leather coat is so hot with the hell in the background. That one's really, really cool. A lot of people highlighted Fallout 3 saying, I bought this so many times. And a lot of old school gamers out there that said, James says, Morrowind was the most immersive game I had played. The sandstorms and rain at the time were incredible. The way lore and history and racial tensions impacted your character in here. And now, still my favorite Elder Scrolls title. So definitely wanted to take some time and, of course, highlight all of you, the best friends around the globe that share in this positivity. Like Parris said, right? This is about some awesome stuff and what we're getting to get in the future. And so I wanted to start off the show with some fun because it is a big deal and it is something really, really cool that we all get to share in the gaming world. But enough of that. Let's jump into the show. We got to get into some housekeeping really quick. Of course, this is the Kind of Funny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and on podcast services around the globe. Please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, give it a thumbs up, share it with all your friends, and leave a comment. Let us know what your favorite Bethesda memories are, because I would love to share in the positivity with all of you out there. And if you don't have any Bethesda memories, type in the comments what you're looking forward to playing, because there's so many titles now coming your way via Xbox Game Pass. We also want to give a big shout out to the Kind of Funny Next Generation podcast. Barrett, Courtney, where can they find that?
You can support patreon.com/kindoffunny or patreon.com/kindoffunnygames at the gold tier for your monthly exclusive show, the Kind of Funny Next Gen podcast. It's not about next gen consoles, despite all of the questions that are written in for the show about next gen consoles. It is the Kind of Funny podcast, but with the next generation of Kind of Funny, blessing Adeoye Jr., Roger Picorni, and myself. It's a fun monthly show where we talk about what did we talk about in this recent episode? Hanna-Barbera animation versus Disney animation, just silly stuff like that. Last month's episode was all about video essays, because the three of us all came up doing video essays before we officially got into the industry, stuff like that. So check that out. And hey, that's not the only thing you're paying for at the gold tier. You get a bunch of other goodies at the gold tier, so check it out.
Make sure to check it out. We would like producers for the month: Mick, aka the Nano Biologist, Tyler Ross, Joy, Trent Berry, Mizuki, Man Bear Paradox, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, Alex J. Sandoval, Sancho West Gaming, James Hastings, Elliot, and Casey Kern. Of course, this episode of the Kind of Funny podcast, this episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by Every Plate and Honey, but we'll get into that just a little bit later. Let's jump right in to the big week that we had celebrating Bethesda. Of course, we had an awesome roundtable. And Parris Lilly, you were right. They connected with me. They had the straightforward messaging. They put a face to the communication. It wasn't a blog post. It just wasn't words on a screen. I wasn't left saying, but wait, I don't understand. Nobody actually held my hand and walked me through all this. And as well, Parris, one of the coolest parts, they did the deep dives on all the studios. They introduced them to the family, which I thought was really, really special, because I always talk about all those hardworking men and women behind the scenes who create the games that we love. And it's always cool to be like, hey, let's pull the curtain back and let you introduce yourselves and meet the people out there, because there's some really, really cool people that we'd love to hear their stories. But we had the big round table. There was some crazy quotes. There was a lot of details. They said, Parris, they told me, SnowBikeMike, calm yourself. Don't think that we're going to give you that much. They gave me a lot. They gave me a full hour, Parris. I don't know if they were fibbing to me or not. They might want to reword that one, but it was truly, truly something special. We had Phil Spencer, Aaron Greenberg, Sarah Bond was in the building, friend of the show. Shout out to her. Pete Hines, Todd Howard, Aaron Losey, Matt Booty, and Todd Vaughn all stopped by for this roundtable. And of course, we got to talk exclusivity, the quotes. So before I do that, Parris, before I bring out the big quote that everybody wants to talk about, I just want to talk about the setup really quick. Of course, you touched on it at the beginning of the show. You said, hey, this is what I want to see. Do you think they hit that? And was this the right setup for what we created with this roundtable feel?
Yeah, I absolutely think this is what you should have expected at this juncture in time. Like, all right, the deal is done. Let's get in front of this. Let's introduce this in a very humanizing way. Let's put names and faces together so that, they're in a casual setting to be able to sit down and talk about what this acquisition meant, not only for Xbox, but for Bethesda, as well as introduce us to the Bethesda family as a whole. It was, look, I guess I did call it because I kept saying, hey, have Phil Spencer there. I didn't realize they would have Aaron Greenberg there. I was so happy to see Sarah Bond be a part of this. I think that's very important in this space to see her be a part of this for various reasons. We don't need to get into that here specifically, but to have that setting and to have Pete Hines, who, like I was saying before, is pretty much the face of Bethesda when you really think about it. He's been the public face for 2 decades now for that company. So to kind of have him narrate the story of Bethesda, introduce us to these studios, and we got to see, again, talking about the passion that they have, the collaborative efforts that they have in their internal studios, and what they think they can bring to Xbox. Like, I really like that they talked about how Xbox is going to learn things from Bethesda and vice versa. And you're going to see this, like the way I equate it is, you're going to have 23 studios that are going to get together with some of the smartest people on this planet saying, hey, here's what I do to make a game, or I'm stuck on this. I love the way you did that. Maybe we can incorporate this into our game. Maybe we can borrow your technology. The id engine now gets used on another Xbox studio, or vice versa. You get the, slip space or whatever from 343 goes to something Bethesda wants to do, right? That's the kind of things that excite me about this. So absolutely, it was actually more than I thought. Like you said, this was a little bit over an hour, and I was shocked to see that. But I thought they got the message across that Bethesda is now a part of Xbox, and we're going to work together moving forward to just make great games. And that's what we want.
I love that. And it's right. And so let's get to the big quote. Of course, I have got Barrett queued up. So if you're watching, you're going to be able to see it. If you're listening, guess what? Phil Spencer's going to speak directly to you, because I didn't want to butcher the quote. I didn't want to leave anything missed out right there. So we're going to play it straight up for you. This is Pete Hines asking the question, what's up with exclusivity and Bethesda? Roll it.
Bethesda.
Now, we know you all have a lot of questions. We've gotten a lot of questions since we announced this deal. But one of the biggest ones, Phil, is this question about exclusivity and how you think about that and how that's going to work with Bethesda.
Yeah, I see it. I see it in the community. I listen to the podcasts and all the questions. So I'm going to try to be as clear as I can.
That's our podcast.
Because that's what I just think it's fair. So obviously, I can't sit here and say every Bethesda game is exclusive, because we know that's not true. There's contractual obligations that we're going to see through, as we always do in every one of these instances. We have games that exist on other platforms, and we're going to go support those games on the platforms they're on. There's communities of players. We love those communities, and we'll continue to invest in them. And even in the future, there might be things that have either contractual things or legacy on different platforms that we'll go do. But if we're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. And that's our goal. That's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building, and the creative capability we will be able to bring to market for our Xbox customers. It's going to be the best it's ever been for Xbox after we're done here.
Okay, Sarah, so Phil was just talking.
Love that. Thank you so much, Barrett, for playing that. Gary Whitta, you heard the quote. This is the big quote that's being passed around everywhere. Phil Spencer looked the camera in the eye. He looked me in the eye, Gary Whitta, and he told me his feelings and the statement on exclusivity. Do I now have a clear understanding of what exclusivity means for Bethesda and Xbox, or am I in the same spot I was last week? Gary, tell me your thoughts.
I will merely echo what I've been saying all week, which is I don't care. Because I've got an Xbox already. Doesn't affect me. Doesn't affect me either way. It's the people on the PlayStation blogs and the Nintendo blogs that should be sweating it. Because in terms of the knowns and the unknowns, They don't know. Like I said, you, me, and Parris, Xbox gamers, Game Pass gamers, are already in the lifeboat. If you're a big fan of Fallout or Doom or Wolfenstein or Elder Scrolls or Evil Within, you name it, those are the guys that are splashing around in the water, hoping they're going to get pulled onto the lifeboat. We're already in. It's a big deal for us in that we know that all these titles now are going to fall under the Game Pass umbrella. We're never going to have to buy another Bethesda or id Software or Arcane Studios game again. We're all good, or they're all going to go to games. So that's nice to know. It's a luxury, but it's not like an existential, oh my God, am I still going to have access to these games? We're already set. I think that the PlayStation blogs and the Nintendo blogs, the people that are not in the Game Pass ecosystem, are the ones that have more to, I don't know if you would say worry about, but more to think about. For them, it's more of an unknown, because for every one of these games that does go, and we don't know, again, they still haven't brought a lot of clarity to it. I think that'll get dribbled out in time, but they didn't make a definitive statement about this will be exclusive, this won't. We're going to have to wait longer. Again, I don't care, because I don't care what other people are playing. I honestly don't care if what Sony people are playing. I'm good. I got my games over here. I'm all set. Pull the ladder up. I'm fine. For everyone else, those are the ones that I think should be leaning in. Going, am I going to be okay here? If I want to play Fallout 5 or whatever the follow up to Skyrim is, or the next Doom or the next Wolfenstein, am I going to have to get into the Game Pass ecosystem, or are these games going to come to the platform that I'm already that I already invested in and I'm loyal to? So it's a much bigger question for non-Xbox gamers. I understand why it's big news for Xbox, but I actually think it's Xbox gamers for whose lives are going to change the least. It's going to change in a good way, because these games are going to come to Game Pass, but we know we're getting these games. We're set. That's already locked in. There's no question about that. But again, for the people on the PlayStation side or the Nintendo Switch side as well, that remains an open question, and that lack of clarity is much more of an issue for other gamers on other platforms than it is for us. I just want to another note on the event itself. I think Microsoft is better at this than a lot of other game companies, specifically Sony. I think that they, Phil and Aaron, they're all friendly faces, and I get it. It's ultimately just another big corporation, but this is supposed to be a fun business, right? We're in the business of video games. These people are toy makers, very sophisticated toys, but they're toy makers. And that's supposed to be fun and friendly and accessible and inviting. And, you got Phil there in his leather jacket, like kicked back, just like lounging around. It just kind of feels like a chill vibe. You would never see Sony do an event like that. I don't know exactly like what the difference is, but I always get the impression that like Xbox, Sony people are going to hate me for this, but it's an Xbox podcast, so I don't care. The Xbox company, Microsoft, feels like it's run by humans. And Sony just kind of feels like it's run by machines that are programmed to make video games that humans will like, but machines nonetheless. Like other than Jim Ryan, I can't tell you the name of anyone who works really at Sony, because they're not out there in the way that, you've got Jeff Rubenstein and Aaron Greenberg and Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer and many others are out there all the time, like putting a public face on the company and the games that they make. Sony makes excellent games as well, and maybe this is like not that at the end of the day. As long as you give me good games, what do I care? But we're here to talk about the business. I just think in terms of their messaging and the way that they kind of connect with their audience as a company, as a group of individuals who make video games and sell them to you, I just think Microsoft does a better job of that stuff than Sony does. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Sony would have I think Sony would have just done a press release or like a pre-baked video or something that would, I don't think it would have felt like it had a human face on it the way that the Xbox event did. And I appreciate that. Like, it's supposed to be a fun business, and you kind of want to feel like these people and you have a connection to them. And hey, oh yeah, Phil Spencer said this and Aaron said that. And you just got to feel like, even though there's always going to be that distance there, they're the company, you're the customer, but you kind of like to feel like even as an illusion, there's a sense of like, hey, this is all like, we're all in this together. You make the games, I play them, and we have this relationship. I feel like Microsoft does a better job of cultivating that sense of community than a lot of other game companies.
So Gary, I'm with you on everything that you said, but I am going to push back a little bit on one thing. You said that it's still kind of up in the air. Like, again, I agree with you. If you're an Xbox gamer, none of this matters to you. You're good. Game Pass, all that, all these games are coming. It's not even a question. But I do feel that Phil Spencer was pretty definitive to the non-quote-unquote Xbox gamer on setting an expectation. The expectation is, unless there's a contract saying that I got to put that game on PlayStation, it ain't happening. That's what he basically told you in that. And I feel like he 90% got there, but that 10% wiggle room when he said legacy. And I'm telling you, I had to go listen to this thing like 5 or 6 times to make sure I understood 100% what he meant. He was talking about it in a contractual way, because he talks about contractual, he goes, or, maybe legacy, something like that. In other words, he's not talking about, well, Fallout 3 exists on PlayStation. Of course it does. That's not going anywhere. But Fallout 5, when that comes, that's not coming to PlayStation unless there's a contract saying it has to come to PlayStation. That was the point he was trying to make. When he says legacy, I took that more as, hey, maybe there's something fun we could do. Maybe there's a remake to an old game. Sure, we'll still put that on the platform that it already existed on. But what he is telling you, whether it's a franchise or a brand new IP, any new game, unless Bethesda already made a deal for it, will not show up on a PlayStation or Nintendo platform unless we decide to do so. And chances are we won't, because what was the last thing he said? These games will exist where Game Pass lives, and Game Pass does not live on a PlayStation or Nintendo platform. And that's kind of what I've been saying since September, that this is their plan. You don't spend that amount of money to not be completely disruptive, because they're trying to add value to Game Pass. This is how you add value to Game Pass. And then one other thing, I think about Starfield. Obviously, that's the hot button new IP topic, which we'll probably find out more about at whatever the summer event is to be, right? Because I said this on Kind of Funny Daily, because Greg brought it up. If Starfield was going to be on a PlayStation, if there was some contract that said that Starfield was going to be on PlayStation, guess who would have announced that this week? PlayStation. Jim Ryan would have told you that already. They would let you know, hey, no, we have a deal in place. You don't have to worry. Whenever Starfield is going to be available, it'll show up on that platform. But if you notice the comments Jim Ryan is saying, he was like, hey, we want to doing 2 on all their IPs, because they don't know either. The only guarantees that we know right now are going to be Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, because those are known entities that will show up. And Phil Spencer said, we will honor all our obligations. But beyond that, they're taking all of it to Game Pass. So that means it shows up on Xbox hardware, it shows up on the PC, it shows up on xCloud, which means mobile devices, and eventually TV apps. That's where these games are going to live. And this is the disruption that they're trying to make. Because I'll go back again. What has been the perception of Xbox the past 7 or 8 years? They don't have games. They don't have big AAA experiences. Well, guess what? They just got a publisher that does. That's the whole point of this. That's why they did this. They did not do this to keep things the same. They did not do this to not hurt the feelings of someone who doesn't play on Xbox. They can't worry about that. If anything, they're trying to incentivize those people that don't play games on Xbox to now come to Xbox. And you do that by giving them compelling games to play. That's the whole point of all of this.
Yeah, Parris, I think you and I are in broad agreement. I'm quite certain that everything you said is exactly what's going to come to pass. The fact that and you have to remember, Phil Spencer, right, is a CEO of a major corporation. He runs the whole Xbox universe. He doesn't say anything by accident. He thinks that every single word choice that he makes is very carefully chosen, especially when, in a public, sphere like this. Like the stock price can move based on a single word that he says, right? So he has to be very, very careful, and everything he says is like very carefully curated before he puts it out there. It's simply the fact that and again, I don't think there is much room for maneuver. I think the people who are still looking for the wiggle room are the Sony gamers and the non-Xbox gamers who are, to some extent, I think I see him on social media and I see him in the comments threads all the time. Still a little bit in denial. Microsoft's not really going to do this because they don't want to believe that it's going to happen. But I do agree it's going to happen. And again, we haven't specifically seen any specific examples of this happening. Yeah, it will come in time. But when Spencer talks in general about licensing agreements and things like that, I feel confident that he's referring to things like Indiana Jones and things like that we've already kind of carved out as outliers here. I don't think that is going to be a Spider-Man type situation. I think that will be a cross-platform title. I think you're going to see that Bethesda Indiana Jones game on PlayStation, on Nintendo platforms, on every platform basically as well. as on Xbox. But again, that's because there are forces in play there that they don't control. They don't own Disney and Lucasfilm.
Right.
They can't say as well in how that game is published. But the things that they do now wholly own and control, it's going to be Xbox all the way down down the road for the future of these titles. And I think that sooner or later that there is going to be when they actually announce here's the next Fallout or here's the next Doom and it's an Xbox exclusive. When that happens, we'll finally be past this. But there are definitely, and again, I don't care. I'm sorry to say I'll sound selfish. Maybe the reason why I haven't analyzed this very much or thought about it from the other point of view is that it doesn't affect me. As soon as he said, these games are going to be on Xbox, I'm like, that's all I needed to hear. I'm an Xbox gamer. I'm all good. But there are definitely still people out there who are hanging on, who don't want to believe that if they want to continue to play some of these games that they love and historically have played them on, for example, PlayStation, they're going to either have to give up playing those games or buy into the Game Pass ecosystem. And again, that doesn't mean buy an Xbox. And we've said that's an increasingly small part of what Phil Spencer's business model is about. Selling the physical boxes is one part of the business model. They just want your subscription money. They just want your $15 a month for Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate. Whether you're playing them on a PC you already have, or whether you're going to get a smart TV that has it built in, or some kind of little dongle Xbox Mini thumbstick thing. We've said it a million times, but all of these options I think are going to be coming down the road. They want you to play these games. They want to give you as many reasons as possible and make it as easy and as frictionless as possible to play these games. But one of those reasons, and I think we all now, there's no room for doubt unless you're completely dyed in the wool, don't want to believe it in. You're just not ready to move from the denial into the next stage of grief or whatever it is. Yeah, these games are now Xbox exclusive. That seems there's very little room for interpretation at this point.
Yeah, and I guess that's my whole point on it is like you said, if you're in the Xbox ecosystem, you're fine. All these games are coming. I played Wolfenstein this morning on my phone via xCloud. It was great to be able to have that option to do it. But going back to, because there is a negative side to all this. We're talking about all the positives of it, but there is a negative side to it if you're not invested into the Xbox ecosystem. And again, business obviously is a part of all this, but they just took a major third-party publisher off the board. I mean, that's a big deal. That is very disruptive to this industry. What does that mean for the industry? We won't know anytime soon. That's going to be a long-term issue that we'll have to see how it plays out. But I do think it's very important for Microsoft and Bethesda to get people that are outside their ecosystem to not have false hope, to not have unrealistic expectations that, well, gee, maybe Elder Scrolls 6 will show up on the PlayStation, but maybe we should just wait it out and see. No, it's not. Let people know that. Make them understand that is not going to happen because that game is so far out. There is no contract. There is no legal obligation that it would show up on a PlayStation platform. There might still be some things in the short term. Again, Wolfenstein 3 as an example, we have no idea until they actually talk about it. But the long-term play on these things, there's no way they're showing up on PlayStation. So, because I've just been seeing the comments online, people are doing real mental gymnastics to try and justify, well, he said Legacy, so Legacy means Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Wolfenstein and Doom and Quake. Those all are still going to show up on PlayStation with their Legacy. No, it doesn't. And it's like, I almost wish he didn't say that word because it seemed very unscripted. It was almost like they were in too casual of a setting in that moment where he didn't have a teleprompter to read off what he was talking about. And I think people are doing some wordplay to try and justify some false hope. But if you truly analyze what he was saying, he's saying our games will be exclusive, not just Bethesda, all of them will be exclusive to wherever Game Pass is. That's what people need to understand. And until there's a day that Game Pass, which look, ain't going to happen, but until there's a day that Game Pass is on PlayStation, those games will not show up there, but they will continue to honor the games and support the games that are already there. And that's obviously a good thing. They're not taking anything from you. They're just not giving you anything new. And I think that's the clear distinction people need to understand when it comes to what just happened.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, Parris, why not just be more definitive in your wording?
Yeah.
Again, people pick apart the wording of everything here, and Phil, whether deliberately or not, left just enough ambiguity in the way that he spoke. That the PlayStation diehards are able to kind of find these little cracks. That they go, oh, but he didn't say specifically this. Again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I absolutely do think that these are all going to be exclusive titles going forward. I don't think you'll see another original Doom or Fallout or Elder Scrolls or Wolfenstein game on PlayStation. I think we all. So why not just definitively say that and leave no room for misinterpretation? It feels like they're still kind of dancing around it a little bit.
Yeah, it was interesting, like you said, the verbal gymnastics, right, Parris? Me and my friends stayed up all night long of like picking apart what did he mean by legacy? What could you draw from legacy? And I think it was very clear, right? I think you hit it on the head, Parris, of like it felt like 90% there, right? It was like right there, but that one word definitely left where you could just kind of jump back and forth. But I do think it is clear as a gamer in general to understand that moving forward, these titles are going to be exclusive to the Game Pass ecosystem. And you said in a negative way that like this could be taken as a negative, these games being taken from you. But also in the other positive, we can look at it as you can play Game Pass on a number of devices and it's only going to grow. And that service is going to be really, really helpful to gamers. I know we beat the drum all the time, but like that price point, right? $10 a month or $15 a month for you to have access to all these games are saving you so much, especially in a world where these games are going to go up to $70+, right? And it's like, man, you know, I know you hate the idea of jumping to consoles or trying a new ecosystem, but when you look at the savings you're going to get and you're looking at what Microsoft is looking at for the future, it almost seems extremely positive and hard to like listen to that negative and be like, whoa, dude, like, why can't you just buy into it? Or why can't you just at least look into it and try it just a little bit? It seems so many people are so stubborn that they don't want to try and look into the future. But for me, I think the big one for me was the end. But if you're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists, and that's our goal. That's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building, and that creativity capability that we'll be able to bring to the market for our Xbox customers. It's like, yes, this box isn't just a first-person shooter box anymore. It's got everything now, and that's what I've always wanted.
Yeah, again, I'll just go back to the thing that excites me the most out of this is I just feel like it frees them up to be even more creative. They get to be more creative and not worry about deadlines and budgets and release windows and all that. That's Phil Spencer's job to do. They get to just create, just come up with a great idea, start making it. Hey, we say it's going to be out this time. Oh, wait, we're not ready yet. We need more time. We've seen, because there's even questions about that, because remember, Phil Spencer has made the promise, Xbox has made the promise that all these studios that they're bringing in-house, they want to be hands-off with them and just allow the creative process to happen. And if they need more time, they're giving them more time. And look, we live in the real world. I'm sure at some point there's going to be like Halo Infinite as an example. If it got delayed again, someone's going to have to answer for that, right? So there is some accountability when it comes to that. But the whole point is, if Starfield, this is why I still contend the rumors about Starfield coming out this year, I don't believe it, because in a COVID world, if you need more time, I can't imagine them saying, well, just put Starfield out because we need it out this holiday. No, you don't. You got Halo Infinite coming out this holiday. Give Todd Howard and those guys more time to make sure it is as polished and as ready as it can possibly be when it comes out. And as gamers, we're all going to be okay. And again, if you're a part of Xbox, you're getting all this on Game Pass anyway. So again, you win. If you're an Xbox guy, this is a great day for you because you're getting so much more value to that ecosystem with all these Bethesda IPs coming in-house.
Yeah, and to that point, just to get away from kind of the console war business analysis stuff of it, which to me is less interesting than just like talking about the games and what does it mean, you know, for gamers on the ground. One of the points that I wanted to make is that we talked earlier. We kicked off the podcast with Mike asking us about our memories, right? Like what has the past of these storied gaming franchises meant to us? You know, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom, Elder Scrolls. And we have so many great memories of so many of them because they are truly great games that have stood the test of time. What I think is potentially more interesting, though, going forward is the future of these franchises. And I'm sure Microsoft looked at this very closely before they decided to pay the many billions of dollars that they did in terms of evaluating the worth of these things going forward. Is what's remarkable about, I think, all four. I know there are others, Dishonored and Prey and Evil Within, but you think about what you consider the four big ones: are Doom, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, and Fallout. Right? Those are kind of the four biggies that we know about right now. Is that all four of those franchises, which have been around, for various degrees, like 20, 30 years or more, I think are still very much in rude health. You can kind of tell when a game franchise is kind of starting to show signs of like franchise fatigue. It's like there's not much life left in this horse. It's time to move on to the next one. I don't get that feeling from any. I feel like they're going to keep making Doom games forever, and Elder Scrolls games and Fallout forever. Bethesda's not a perfect company, by the way. Let's not forget. Fallout 76 was a big misfire at launch. Wolfenstein Youngblood got a very, very mixed reception. So not everything they do is perfect. But Fallout 76, from everything that I've seen, like looking from the outside, they've done a very good job of riding that ship after a very, very bad wobble when the game they had a very, very unhappy player base for a while there. And it took a while for them to fix it, but they did largely fix it. And I think that Fallout and all of these franchises now, Microsoft's not interested in like what the past of these games are. They're interested in what these games can generate going forward. And I think they've reached the same conclusion that any of us would, which is all four of those key franchises, plus all the new ones that they'll generate like Starfield and beyond. I think there's a really, really strong future. I think we'll still be playing Elder Scrolls games and Doom games and Fallout games another 20 or 30 years from now. And that's part of why they paid so much money for these names.
Yeah, it's really exciting as well. You talked about the collaboration now that we can see, the sharing of knowledge between all of these incredible studios, these hardworking men and women. Like, that's really cool to think about, because when Aaron from Bethesda was talking, it was like, hey, like we have that midwinter party where we all come together and we share ideas, we share our games, our concepts, we come and bring prototypes and people play it and they're like, man, this is cool. How did you do that? Or like, yo, you could elevate it with this. It'd be really cool to see now with the whole Xbox umbrella benefiting from that. And another cool one that I think about is like, if you do make these games exclusive, and now we get to focus on the hardware, right? Instead of trying to produce for multiple different kinds of hardware and ensuring each version is good, now we can really dig deep with Jason Ronald and the team and be like, hey, how do I get the best out of your console right here, right now? And then there's like 7 different teams of like, oh, we do this, we do that. We can show you this. It's like, oh man, now we really get to take these games that we know and love, but so many people have talked about bugs on different versions, different consoles. Now it's like, hey, let's focus on the hardware and focus on what we can do in this ecosystem. I think that's also a really cool positive that I can't wait to see Bethesda elevate and Xbox in general elevate alongside with all of that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Like you said, you're two vast pools of institutional knowledge that are coming together. And once you're kind of like fully brought in-house, like as a fully kind of owned and operated subsidiary of the Xbox empire, which all these ZeniMax studios now are, you are going to get greater access to the tools and the infrastructure and the support systems that Microsoft and Xbox have done a good job of building out for the last 20 years or so. So yeah, I think even if it's just like marginal gains, the fact that like a fully exclusive Xbox optimized version of the next Elder Scrolls or Fallout game might just be that little bit better than it would have been had it been a multi-platform title. Again, good news for us.
Really good news. Let's pause for a quick moment from our sponsors. This week, the Kinda Funny Xcast is brought to you by EveryPlate and Honey. Thanks to EveryPlate, experience full plates and fuller wallets with America's best value meal kits. Get meals you'll enjoy and your bank account will love delivered right to your door, contact-free. Think of it this way. From EveryPlate is the same price as 1 cup of coffee. EveryPlate dinners are the less expensive and more fulfilling alternative to takeout or delivery and more bang for your buck. Recipes come together in about 30 minutes, definitely faster than a trip to the grocery store and starting a meal from scratch. EveryPlate provides easy-to-follow recipe cards and pre-portioned ingredients so you can spend less time prepping and cooking and more time enjoying good food with family or loved ones. Our editor Roger tried EveryPlate with his family and they were blown away by the affordable price and value. They loved seeing his father find the fun again in cooking, and the whole family loved and encourages everybody to go try the Cuban chicken with chimichurri. That was a blast, he said. Try EveryPlate for just $1.99 per meal, plus an additional 20% off your next 2 boxes by going to everyplate.com and entering code KindaFunny199. Again, try EveryPlate for just $1.99 per meal, plus an additional 20% off your next 2 boxes by going to everyplate.com and entering code KindaFunny199. That's up to a $100 value. Up next, we'd like to thank Honey. We all shop online, and we've all seen that promo code field taunt us at checkout. But thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free browser extension that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. Honey supports over 30,000 stores online that range from sites that have tech and gaming products to popular fashion brands and even food delivery. Imagine you're shopping on one of your favorite sites. When you check out, the Honey button drops down and all you have to do is click Apply Coupons. Wait a few seconds as Honey searches for coupons and it can find for that site. If Honey finds a working coupon, you'll watch the prices drop. One of our founders, Tim Gettys, uses Honey all the time when he's purchasing hot new tech for his home, cute dog products for Moose, or just everyday items whenever he's shopping online. Honey has saved him thousands of dollars and he loves it. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It's literally free and installs in a few seconds. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this podcast. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/kinda. That's joinhoney.com/kinda. Now let's get back to the show. All right, guys, welcome back. Let's talk about a couple of smaller quotes that came out from this roundtable. It was incredible. Like Parris said, a lot of information here and a couple of cool pullable quotes that we can talk about. Let's start off with our guy, Aaron Greenberg, who was very excited at the initial idea of the backwards compatible games, especially the ones coming to Game Pass. But he said, hey, we already have teams already working on adding FPS boost to a number of those titles that we're going to announce soon, not today, but soon, which is really, really excited. Of course, we talked with Jason Ronald and the team about the FPS boost, those 5 titles that they chose. And now you have the whole Bethesda legacy that we can just kind of elevate right away. Remember, they don't have to rewrite the code or anything like that. So it's really cool if like game developers don't have to stop or slow down. And a cool one today coming out of the Major Nelson podcast, Jeff Rubenstein, friend of the show, said that five of these 20 titles are already planned for FPS boost to go up to 60 frames per second. That's the Dishonored Definitive Edition, Skyrim Special Edition, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Prey will get this FPS boost. That's pretty cool to see these legacy titles that we talked about, these old versions of these games coming up, and now they're going to get the boost where it's like, hey, have you ever played Skyrim? Have you ever thought about checking out Dishonored? Well, now you're going to get an even better version thanks to this awesome idea that we've created over with Xbox. That was a pretty fun quote right there, and I can't wait to see what more they have in store with the Bethesda and, of course, any other titles they got. Another big, yeah.
Oh, no. I'm just gonna just agreeing. Like it's exciting to see that again. This like when we had Jason Ronald on. Like now these Bethesda titles, you're going to be able to go back and add a little extra shine to them. The fact that you could potentially go back and play Oblivion in 60 frames per second, just crazy stuff like that. It's an awesome feature. Yeah. Do you remember when we looked at him? We were like, hey, like when you first kind of hinted at this, you brought up Fallout 4, but then you're not showing us this now. And he was like, kind of looked at us. And sure enough, like 2 weeks later, here we are. Like, oh, Fallout 4 is definitely getting this, and it's coming. That was pretty sweet. Another awesome one was actually coming from Aaron from Bethesda. Aaron Losi was over to Aaron Greenberg says, I look forward to learning from you, from working with you on this summer event that we've promised now. So, guys, we've talked about this, and it's kind of been the conversation. GamesBeat says that they believe there will be 2 events. There will be an Xbox and a Bethesda event. There'll be 2 separate ones, of course, with the E3 planning. And we've talked about, like, what does the summer look like? This is the second year now of COVID-19 and everything really being online. Last year, it was a different world. It was a new world. It was uncharted territory in those first couple of months heading into summer. And now we're a year removed, right? We're smarter. We have worked through this work from home situation. We've had a lot of these different presentations online. So as we look at these 2 teams now 100% merged, they now can move forward together. Do we think there will be 1 event? Do we think there will be 2 events? Or do we see something different
because there's also a tease of maybe an event in March and maybe even more after that. So what could we expect out of this? Let's start off with Parris. Do you think we're going to have one event or two events this summer? And then what is up with this rumor? Have you heard about this? Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, I've heard about the rumor, and to answer the first question, I don't think it'll be one event. I think there'll be multiple events, but not in the way that we think like, oh, there's just Bethesda only and Pete Hines is coming out just hosting the whole thing. And then there's a second one where it's just Phil Spencer hosting the whole thing. I think they're going to break up the games and intertwine them in together depending on basically the scale of them, as an example, right? Like, I'm sure they can have an event where they're showing a bunch of different games and maybe you close it out with Halo Infinite so it gets its spotlight, right? Then maybe you have a secondary event where maybe there's a little more focus on Bethesda titles in it than the first one, and you close that one out with Starfield, as an example, right? Or they could do something like they did last year where, remember, they had the May event, which was kind of more of their AA stuff, and then obviously you had the big showcase at the end. I think the whole point of what I'm making on that is they're treating Bethesda as now a part of the Xbox family. Everything's integrated together. So you would almost want to see that show of unity where they're all together, right? Talking together about these games versus, yeah, Bethesda, you're still just completely separate. No, Bethesda's a part of the Xbox family. So you'll see a mixture of all the current Xbox games with the Bethesda games to kind of show that this is all one company now moving forward. As far as the March thing, to me, I just think that's where they're going to debut, not Game Pass, but xCloud for PC, and maybe even potentially start talking about some of the TV app stuff they do. That's how I'm looking at that. I don't think there's going to be major game announcements or anything at the March event. I just think they're going to talk more about xCloud, because also remember with xCloud, they're upgrading it, because also, they're going to, right now it's on Xbox One hardware. It's going to move over to Series X hardware at some point. I'm sure maybe it's already starting to happen. And then they're going to start streaming at 1080p at some point as well, along with being PC. And you would think they're not going to put things on the television screen until they can hit 1080p. So again, I think that March announcement is most likely leaning towards that, because, like Gary, has talked about many times, xCloud, the big Trojan horse is going to be to get that app on a television. And once you get that app on the television, that's when you're really going to start to see wide adoption of it and start tapping into that billion gamers around the world versus just people playing on phones.
So I won't get Elden Ring, is what you're saying.
Yes, you will. You're getting that. That's coming.
Yes, thank you, Parris. People can run wild with that.
Yeah.
It's not true, but who knows? But in all honesty, Parris, I think you're right. I want to see them come together. I didn't really like the idea of, we're just going to be two separate entities, two different nights, whatever. That didn't feel like the unity and the camaraderie and us being under one umbrella that I wanted. It didn't feel right to me. And what I'm really excited about is to see what this does look like. Yeah, I know we're planning now, but I think a lot of people put in like, hey, you start to plan for E3 the moment you're done, which is totally right. These large scale events, you plan the day after the event is done, you start moving forward. But also, we saw a shift. Last March is when COVID happened. We all started to stay at home, and we saw Xbox bring out the 2020 initiative, which was their goal to do smaller events, whether it be blog posts, whether it be inside Xbox, spots on YouTube. But they wanted to do smaller things every single month. And that's what I really look forward to. Is like, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. It's like, when will we break this cycle of, hey, it can only be this 1 week during the summer? There's 12 months in the year. There's 52 weeks of the year. I want to have fun all the time. And will Xbox or these other video game companies look to say, hey, we can do this in a better, different way and bring you news once a month, once every 2 months, once a quarter, instead of, you have to wait till June 5th. We'll see you then. And that just seems outrageous, especially in the world we live in now, where we're much smarter. We've worked from home for a full year. We know what we can and can't do. And I think we've really seen Xbox leverage that. Gary said just at the beginning, he loved what he saw at this roundtable. He thinks Xbox does head and shoulders better than the competition with these kind of events. So could we leverage that more and do it some more? I think this is going to be a whole lot of fun. Gary, what do you think about Xbox and Bethesda events moving forward into the future?
I don't know. I haven't given it a tremendous amount of thought until you just brought it up. But it's interesting to think about. On the one hand, it's a good problem for Microsoft to have, right? So, oh my God, we suddenly have like twice as many games and franchises as we had yesterday. How do we now, our cup runneth over? How do we triage all of this and curate how we're going to present them all? I get my initial instinct would be to not separate the Bethesda stuff, because part of the messaging here is like, hey, Bethesda is now part of Xbox. It's part of the family. Right. And, to me, integrating it and kind of putting it all in with everything else just kind of like helps sell that message that this is all part of like everything that we do now. It's not like a separate entity. It's all part of Microsoft, Xbox, Game Pass. It's all one thing. At the same time, it's now like there's arguably too much stuff to put in one event. So how do you break that down? I actually kind of like the model, especially since, we saw E3 kind of struggled last year and a lot of the live events went away because of COVID. Probably is almost certainly going to be the same again this year. For the last year, I'm sure, hopefully, we're turning the corner with all that stuff, thank God. But, I don't think we're going to see like, big arenas of Xbox fans or Sony fans, this summer going crazy. We're not there yet. So we're probably going to have one more round of these big, E3 era summer festival kind of gaming events. Jeff Keighley doing his thing and IGN doing their thing, and they're rolling out these different virtual events. I actually kind of like, it's always fun. It's kind of like, Christmas for gamers at E3 and GDC and these big events where companies put on their big presentations. But I actually kind of like the model we've been selling into in recent years, with Nintendo does its directs and they just drop them when they want to drop them. Sony does its state of play. They drop them when they drop them. Microsoft, I guess, has got kind of the inside Xbox thing, and they do that. Just like you announce things. I never kind of understood this idea of like we've got to like get all these demos ready, and we have to announce this stuff because someone else, like the ESA, is going to do E3 or whatever. Like we're gonna do these events based on someone else's calendar. And I've never liked this idea of like, so Microsoft's going to do all its announcements in the morning, so we get a couple of hours of press, but then Sony does its event in the afternoon, and suddenly everyone's talking about, basically a couple of hours for people to talk about your event until Sony comes along in the afternoon and then starts to eat the news cycle. Just do your own thing on your own schedule. Show the games when you're ready to show them as part, like do it on your own terms. Like you've got a marketing plan for these games, and rather than crunching, one of we talk a lot about crunch, right? And one of the biggest issues with developers crunching is getting together. This is one of the things that came out of Cyberpunk, right? They crunched those developers to get a demo ready for whenever it was E3 a few years ago. And that demo ended up being largely, kind of just like propped up on sticks anyway. It wasn't even a real demo, but they had to crunch just because the E3's at this date. You got to hit that date. Why not unveil it when you're ready to unveil it? I guarantee you people are going to be interested in Cyberpunk or the next Elder Scrolls or whatever, whenever you show it to us. It doesn't have to be part of someone else's news cycle, someone else's event. Just do it on your own terms. So I'd be happy to see Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft all settle into just, we don't need E3. We don't need these third-party venues or events to show our games. We're going to show them to you when we're ready. And maybe that's on our own annual schedule. Maybe it's a few times a year like the Nintendo Directs, and we'll get excited whenever, they announce a new state of play or Direct or inside Xbox. But just do it on your own terms. Show us the games when you're ready. This is a big trend that I think we're seeing, after Fallout 76 and Cyberpunk and Anthem and some of the games that were released before they were ready. There is this increasing attitude, in the public space, people, gamers, developers, people in the media, all saying, don't crunch, don't hit arbitrary deadlines. Announce it, show us it when it's ready, release it when it's ready. We'll be here, and we'll be grateful to you for showing us a game when it's ready and releasing it when it's ready. We don't want to be paid beta testers. So hopefully, the Bethesda thing aside, I would rather see game companies get more on a footing of, we're going to show this to you and we're going to release it to you when we're ready on our own terms. And I think that means moving away from these third-party events like E3.
Parris, I'll pose the question to you. We've had a really strong momentum boost since the launch of Xbox Series X and S, right? We've had a lot of great blog posts. We've had the Twitter save. We had a little bit of a stumble, but we picked it back up. And we've seen Xbox really do a great job out in the media-wise, keeping their names in the news cycle, staying positive, and bringing a lot of fun to this. We see them now coming off of this with the Bethesda roundtable. When we look at this, how important is it to you for Xbox to stay in the media cycle, to stay in the news? Is this a monthly thing? Is it like, hey, we can now go quiet until summer? How important is it to you about this planned March 26th event, if that's true, coming from Windows Central and Jez, or like, what does that look like to you? How important?
Yeah, I don't think it's that important in the sense that if you don't have anything to talk about, don't manufacture something to talk about. As long as they have relevant things to discuss, absolutely. Let's have that in the news cycle and discuss it. So again, if they are going to do something with xCloud as an example at the end of the month, let's go talk about it. We know that new Xbox headset is coming out. I know Major Nelson had an interview about that. Talk about that. That is relevant news that is going to matter to people in the Xbox community. We know they don't really have a lot of games coming out here in the next couple of months, so there's not going to be a lot to talk about on the gaming front. It sounds like once we get closer to the summer, that's when we're going to start to see more of these announcements and reveals. So again, like even with this Bethesda thing that just happened, I didn't need them to give me game reveals today. They clearly had enough to talk about. They went over an hour. That was relevant enough. That created enough excitement. Like I found it so funny. Cliff Bleszinski had a tweet talking about, okay, I get it. All the Bethesda games are coming to Game Pass because that's my entire timeline today. The news is out there in the cycle. People are obviously excited about this news and it's generating traffic for them. But no, I mean, as long as there's something relevant to talk about, absolutely bring it up. But if they had to go dark the entire month of April and into May, as an example, because there was nothing to talk about, I'm fine with that. If anything, it's going to generate even more excitement the next time they do talk about something, because we know they're going to have relevant news.
I love that. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that March 26th date, see if this is true or not. Of course, I am referring to the Windows Central article by a friend of the show, somebody I love, Jez Corden. He has the article, of course, the headline, Microsoft may have an Xbox gaming event planned for March 26th. Just a quick read in that one. A short while ago, noted Microsoft expert Paul Thurrott tweeted that Microsoft is planning a series of events in the near future revolving around Xbox and Windows, with the gaming show slated for March 23rd. More recently, through our own sources, it seems that this event looks to have shifted slightly to Friday, March 26th. We have heard that the show may offer a glimpse at some upcoming Xbox games for 2021 and possibly beyond. So there's your little hint right there. Maybe Jez and the team might have something for you later on in the month, if that's true with Team Xbox. But we'll find out in a little bit. Let's keep it moving. Our final piece from this big round table, this gigantic Thursday that we shared with Bethesda. Of course, 20 titles are coming to Game Pass right here, right now. They're now playable. You heard Parris, he was playing it. I'm playing Skyrim on my phone now, and I'm having a blast. So here's your rundown, and we'll talk about it, all right? So 20 playable titles. Dishonored Definitive Edition on console, PC, and cloud. Dishonored 2, console, PC, and cloud. Doom 1993, console, PC, and cloud. Doom 2, console, PC, and cloud. Doom 3, console, PC, cloud. That's the BFG edition, which was the remaster from 2012. Doom 64, console, PC, cloud. Doom Eternal, console, PC, cloud. The Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind, console, PC. The Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion, console and PC. The Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim Special Edition, console, PC, cloud. The Elder Scrolls Online, cloud and console. The Evil Within, console, PC, cloud. Fallout 4, console, PC, cloud. Fallout 76, console, PC, cloud. Fallout New Vegas, console. Prey, console, PC, cloud. Rage 2, console, PC, cloud. Wolfenstein The New Order, console, PC, cloud. You heard him laughing in the background. Wow, that's a lot of titles. And also, it's pretty fun to say console, PC, cloud, to think of the ecosystem, right? It's not just like, oh, coming to Xbox today. It's like, no, here it is coming at you in all different angles. Of course, 16 of those will be playable anywhere. Only 4 of them will not be on all 3 pieces of the ecosystem. Gary Whitta, what are you jumping into first? Because that's a giant list of 20 plus games. What's the must-hit game right now for you?
I mean, again, what's amazing about it, because I just pulled up my Xbox app as you were talking, and yep, there they all are. And it's one of those things where, like, we knew this deal was coming for a while. It felt real, or at least more real when, the like you said, the paperwork was kind of signed in the last couple of days and they did this event. But sometimes it's not until like it really kind of hits home. You go, oh, this is like a real thing. Like, these games are now here. Like, I can go play any of these games right now. And again, I think it speaks to the incredible lineage of some of these titles that you can basically play now the entire almost 30-year history of one of the greatest franchises in gaming history, Doom. The original Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, like even kind of like weird shit like that, like Doom 64. And all the way up to Doom Eternal, plus, the newer Wolfenstein games. We've got Rage 2 on here, Skyrim, Dishonored 1 and 2, all of the Wolfenstein titles, Morrowind, Skyrim, Prey, Evil Within. I mean, on and on it goes. Fallout 4. It's really, for people that have been interested in these games in the past, but for whatever reason haven't tried them, but now, have this massive kind of buffet of title, this massive drop over the weekend with Game Pass. I honestly, it's almost hard to know where to start. But I mean, if it were me personally, I would continue with the Wolfenstein games I already started with. I'm kind of like a third of the way, I think, right now through the New Order. I'm going to want to do New Colossus, Old Blood, Young Blood. I'm going to play all of them. It's almost one of those things. It's almost like that kind of Netflix paralysis that you get when you're scanning through all the titles. And I see this on Game Pass as well. There's so much stuff on there. It's like, what do I eat? You're almost like paralyzed by there's so much choice, there's too much good stuff. So I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at it from like one step removed, just thinking about, from a kind of historical perspective, for someone who remembers playing the original Doom when it came out in 1993. Looking at these titles and going, wow, this isn't just like a bunch of really good games that hit Game Pass. This is like a massive, really impressive slab of gaming history that hit Game Pass, and there's something to be said for that, I think.
20 awesome games at your fingertips, ready to download. For me, of course, I always want to highlight those multiplayer games that hit so well for me. Of course, Fallout 76. I've played on my phone in my bed with my friends traveling around the Western Virginia wasteland, and it is so much fun. I love that. Now the idea that I can play Elder Scrolls Online, questing in the bed, that sounds so much fun, and I can't wait for that one. But I'm actually going to use this as a chance to check out those titles I've never played before. Parris brought up Dishonored, and then I want to bring up The Evil Within. These are some games that I'm really excited to check out. Which I'm really excited to check out. I never played The Evil Within because I'm a big baby and I'm afraid of horror games. Perfect chance to try it, give it a download. And Dishonored, right? Barrett will go in my ear and tell me how much he loves these games, and I know I'm missing out. And so,
Dishonored, you want to.
Definitive Edition and Dishonored 2, on the console, on the cloud, on PC, play anywhere, turn it on, play it. I'm into that, and I can't wait to take advantage of the games I missed out on. That's the big deal to me, is hey, here's the games that you didn't want to spend $60 on, Mike. Well, they're part of your service now. Go have some fun with it. So I love that. Parris, what are you going to play? Because I know you've already been playing games.
No, it's Wolfenstein: The New Order. And for the fact, because I played all the Wolfensteins on PC, I never played them on Xbox. So I was like, you know what? It's available on console. I love the game now. I downloaded it last night on my Series X and started playing it. And then this morning I messed around with it on xCloud as well, just streaming it on the phone, playing it. So yeah, I mean, the game's phenomenal. Again, if you've not experienced these machine games, Wolfenstein games, phenomenal.
Yeah, they're terrific.
Phenomenal. You'll love them. Absolutely, highly suggest everyone go check them out and play them.
Yeah, Courtney,
the weird one that I'm kind of curious about, and people don't talk about it a lot, is Rage. I know that got kind of a mixed reception. People are like, is this really the best thing it's ever done? I don't know. But I'm looking at the trailer right now on the Xbox app as we're talking, and it looks like a lot of fun. It looks kind of like a Borderlands, Mad Max.
Yeah,
Rage 2 is the one that's on here. Yeah,
it really grabbed the attention of one Nick Scarpino, weirdly enough.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Y'all know him. He's not someone to really get into games, but I think it's one of those. It comes across as more of a generic open world. It's a lot of checklist kind of shit. So it didn't really get a lot of attention just because it
yeah. I mean,
really
maybe it's just the way they
uniqueness.
Maybe it's the way they cut this trailer, but I mean, it looks like a blast.
The trailer was fun.
Like
I think when everybody got into it, it was just like, all right, it's kind of a generic open world game.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
No, go for it, Parris. Go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, like you bring up Rage 2, but Rage isn't available yet on Game Pass. The same as Wolfenstein 2 isn't available yet on Game Pass, but maybe there's some weird contract thing going on, or maybe they're just simply not ready yet. It'll be interesting to see how they roll out the rest of the Bethesda games on there.
Thanks, Parris. You actually helped me out with the next transition because I went through the list and I said, what are the other games that are missing from the service right now? So here's your quick rundown of all the games that we're going to look forward to in the future and say, where are they at and when are they coming? That is Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, The Evil Within 2, Fallout 3, Rage, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, that's a standalone DLC, and Doom 2016 are all absent from this list and this service right now. So like you said, Parris, it'll be interesting of like, what's the agreements? What's the contracts that's maybe holding them back? Why don't we have all of them? Because you hit us with 20. What's 26? 6 more to make 26.
I'm about to
What's
do
the
some
difference
research.
there?
I'm going to turn on my PS5. I'll report back to you in a minute or two.
Let me know. I love that. So those are the games coming to Game Pass. Those are the games that aren't on Game Pass. That is a weekend full of fun that you can now have instantly. So go out there and start downloading them. But we have one of my favorite Xbox employees back in the news cycle. Xbox Game Pass has a fun tweet right now with a little bit of a tease from our favorite Xbox employee, Melissa McGamepass. She wrote out to the team, hey team, so much news today. Hope you don't mind if I add a little something more, although it's completely unrelated to the other announcements. That new game has been confirmed and is officially coming to the service. As always, keep this confidential. Before I go, I did have something I wanted to ask. Has anyone else noticed a mysterious signal appearing in the distance lately, or am I the anomaly in this situation? Weird question, I know. Thanks, Melissa from Xbox. Melissa McGamepass, Executive Senior VP, Lieutenant of General Video Game Communications at Microsoft Corporations. Of course, we love Melissa McGamepass, always with the fun tease. Parris, I know you and I talked about this before the show, and we said signal, and I said maybe bat signal, and you and I got to talking about Batman. But here's one from our currently live YouTube chat. Yosemite Blam thinks that this could be Outriders' new game, Signal, Anomaly, Parris. Could Outriders be coming to Game Pass day and date? Would that be crazy?
That would be crazy, and that is definitely one I'm not going to hold my next. But that would be wild if Outriders, a brand new third party IP, immediately went to Game Pass. I think that'd be unprecedented. I can't think of anything that has done that yet, unless I'm missing something. But yeah, that would be huge if that happened. I don't think so, personally. It seems to lean Batman, but then again, Arkham Knight is already on Game Pass, so I don't know. I'm throwing off on what this potentially could be.
Gary, Melissa McGamepass, you want to throw your hat into the ring? Any guesses here of what this could be? A fun teaser once again for the Xbox.
I mean,
Game Pass team?
I think like a lot of people, when they saw the Signal thing, their first thought was Batman, but a bunch of those games were already on Game Pass. The Arkham games were already there, so it's not that. I honestly don't know. My only thought is like, how fortuitous is it? In all seriousness, that someone by the name of Melissa McGamepass should end up working at Microsoft. Like,
She's
you just
so
like
great.
anywhere else, it just wouldn't be as good a fit, right? It's like, do you think like as soon as she walked in, like the job interview was like, well, I mean, we have to give you the job.
I mean, that can't be her actual last name, guys. Gary, come
Great
on.
last name. Great last name.
Gary, come on. That can't be a real
Man,
question, right?
it really is like shooting fish in a barrel, isn't it?
You're the greatest. Now, the YouTube live chat is blowing up with us. Of course, we're recording this podcast live to our Patreon fans out there. And I'll tell you right now, they're blowing up. I got John B., my Xbox fan right there, saying, no, Mike, it's Outriders. Get ready. So, hey, John B., Yosemite Blam, I love you throwing your hat into the ring. We will see if this is the tease, if this is possibility. Of course, it says, hey, that new game has been confirmed and is officially coming to the service. New game, Signal, Anomaly, I don't know, but always fun. But I thought the Batman ones would be really great. Of course, we continue to round that out. A lot of great Batman titles there. We'll see.
I did my research, guys. I
Lay it
pulled
on
up the PlayStation 5, and I saw what was available on PlayStation Now. And right now, I believe it's The Evil Within 2, Rage, and Doom 2016 that are 3 games that are on PS Now. So I don't know if that's like a conflicting thing of why they're not on Game Pass right now.
I mean, it would make sense. There's got to be the games that are not on there right now. There's got to be some like weird contractual.
But the other weird thing is though, Dishonored 2 is on PS Now, but it's already on Game Pass, so that already contradicts my my theory.
Who
there,
the hell?
So, yeah.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
A lot going out. Well, let's round out the show with one final thing. We've talked about Bethesda all day long, and it's been a lot of fun to celebrate Bethesda, see the acquisition finally come all the way through. And to everybody out there that was part of the roundtable, thank you. That was a lot of fun and really, really cool. So shout out to the team over there from both sides. But we got to talk a little Halo, y'all. It wouldn't be Xbox with a little bit of Halo. And, last week I told you guys about the big Inside Infinite #3 in the series, the team talking with the people who create Zeta Halo. So it was really, really fun. But now, the week following, we have the Ask 343, which is their series they put up on YouTube where they take yours, the Halo fans out there, questions, and they answer them the best they can. And oh boy, we got a lot of details from this Ask 343 one. And I'm going to jump right over to Reddit, where a user by the name of Intrinsic Gamer did a really good job breaking down a lot of the big stuff here that you probably want to know about if you're a Halo fan and you're looking forward to Halo Infinite, because it got me pretty jazzed up and really excited. So confirmed right now, the ring will have a day and night cycle. It will also have weather systems that includes a pretty cool wind system that will actually play effect into the audio. However, there's not any rainstorms or snowstorms at launch, but they are excited about the future. So seeing Halo go for a full day and night cycle, pretty cool, as we've talked about, like, oh, is this open world? Is it semi-open world? We clearly see this is a different level design than what we're accustomed to with the Halos of the past. And it's really fun to look at, like, what we could see and what we will see. They say the day and night cycle does affect the enemies and how you'll run into them. Grunts will sleep more at night. Phantoms will have searchlights and are around more, which is really, really cool. There are no hostile wildlife in the game. Apparently, there's wildlife running around like space gophers that we'll see, but at this time, they will not be hostile, which is pretty cool. Two big ones that, kind of hit me in the heart right here, Parris and Gary. No dual wielding in this game. Of course, you remember the iconic Halo 2 logo where he just had the dual SMGs, and you're like, oh man, that is the absolute. No dual wielding, which, good, bad, whatever you think, that's going to move on. And there's no playable elites. Guys, I'm heartbroken. I've been playing as a playable elite for years, and I know in Halo 4 and 5 you didn't really play as the elites, but oh my gosh. No elites, Parris. How they gonna do me like that? I love playing as the aliens.
But remember, they did say never on that.
That is true. Never say never is right, Parris. You know that. Of course, a whole lot of fun stuff. They said that weapon upgrades were toyed around with as an idea for the campaign for customizing them, but they left that down to the wayside as they thought they would just go down a rabbit hole. You can hold one piece of equipment in multiplayer, and it is currently a use it and it's gone sort of system in the multiplayer, which is really, really cool. The game is not an open world. It is inspired by missions like the Silent Cartographer, as an example, paraphrasing a bit here, but an example they gave was, what if you could see a scorpion you had at the end of one mission and take it to the next mission? So not a huge open world, but an opportunity here to really flex and let you go explore. They said they're going to use the Pacific Northwest as kind of the biome of what they want to shoot for, but there will be some sub-biomes as a swampy wetlands, a fun deadlands that they refer to out there, and finally, you can kick enemies off the Halo ring, which, I mean, that's pretty epic to me there. Yeah. I love the idea of like, oh, we're going to explore the side of the ring here, and I might be able to throw somebody off the side. Pretty epic. So a lot of details out there. If you want to go check it out, you can go check out the blog posts. You can go check out the Reddits that have broken it all down, or you can just watch the 44-minute Ask 343 video that they have up on YouTube, because it's a ton of fun to see all those hardworking men and women give you the inside deets. Tell me,
absolutely. And honestly, I think what excited me all of this is how the day-night cycle and weather cycle will affect the gameplay depending on the activity of the AI, the enemy, what they're doing. But not to mention going into certain encounters, if I come in it on foot, that will spawn a certain type of enemies that will give me a fun encounter if I'm on foot, or if I come in on a flying vehicle, that's also going to spawn a different set of enemies, which is going to give me a fun encounter in the air. And the fact that you can, even though it's not open world, you don't have to, it's not a linear path as far as the objectives that you take. You can skip over, like take a Banshee and fly over to another objective that's on the map. So they're adding some variety into it from classic Halo play, and like you said, Silent Cartographer, if they're basing it all off of that, honestly, probably the greatest mission in the history of Halo, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff to see. So I can't wait until they're actually reveal more gameplay so we can see some.
Gary Whitta, anything stand out to you? Maybe the non-playable elites. Does that hurt your heart? What do you think?
You know, I've never really been a big Halo multiplayer guy, so I'll leave it to others who are more invested and knowledgeable about that stuff to comment. Some of the other stuff sounds interesting, you know, persistent weather cycles and things like that. It sounds like maybe they're trying to strike a balance between, you know, evolving beyond, you know, just a typical kind of static, you know, linear mission structure that has defined, you know, kind of Halo games in the past, but without going the whole hog towards, you know, something that feels more open world, anthem-y, that might start making people a little bit nervous. I think when people first heard the name Halo Infinite, I thought, oh God, is that where they're going with this? Are they basically taking Halo into kind of the Destiny realm of like a more kind of persistent open world kind of thing? That would be a big seismic shift for Halo. That was my initial thought. I don't think they're going to go anything like that far, but they might start making some baby steps towards it. And the idea of having dynamic weather is maybe a part of that. Just in general, it seems like they're doing a good job on the messaging, lots of transparency, lots of regular updates. I think they know that they had a little bit of a hole to dig out of after last year, you know, the initial very, very poor reception to the launch and then the delay. 2021, you know, so far seems to be shaping up a much better year for Halo Infinite than 2020 was.
I will challenge everybody this weekend. What me and my friends did all last night after we talked about the Ask 343 video was we went out there and we watched all the cinematics for the different Halo games. And let me tell you what, Gary Whitta and Parris, I know you've been continuing your playthrough of Halo 5. I'll tell you what, you click on that Halo 5 cinematic, whether it be Master Chief with the blue team or with Locke, and you watch that cinematic, it is bonkers to see what they created and how cool it was of like blue team shredding down the side of the mountain, fighting elites while also moving down with the avalanche, and they're shooting people. It was nuts. And so I really encourage everybody, if you want your Halo fix, if you want to get that energy back, go out there and check out all the cinematics for the different games, because man, from Halo 3 to Halo 5, we watched Halo 2 cutscenes when he brings back the Covenant bomb. I mean, there's some special ones out there that's really, really awesome.
God, so
definitely
good.
Please go check that out. Here's your final heads up for the show. Of course, your free play weekend this weekend is Stellaris Console Edition and City Skylines. So City Skylines, I highly recommend if you like SimCity, if you like city builders, if you like the tycoon type games, you'll really love City Skylines. They did a really good job for the console edition, and it's a ton of fun. Guys, let's wrap up the show with a quick user question from friend of the show and Patreon producer, the Nano Biologist. Actually brought a pretty cool one to our attention. I wanted to share it with you guys and get your thoughts on it. So he says, hi, Xcast crew. One thing that feels like is flying under the radar is id Software's Orion software. This is the software that id has developed for their own streaming services that honestly feels like a game changer. Why? Because its sole purpose is to make games run better on streaming platforms. So what part of the driving factor of the acquisition was not just because of exclusives, but to get Orion? Are we already seeing Orion's effects with the games put on Game Pass on the 12th to secretly show off what it can do through xCloud? I mean, a lot of games put on the service are fast-paced or require fast reactions, so why have them falter with a poor connection or lack of optimization? What are your thoughts on this Orion software? Thanks, the Nanobiologist. Parris, Gary, I had to do some research. I didn't know anything about this, so it was really cool. I actually brought up the website over on Bethesda.net, did some short reading, and it does sound like a really cool system that this team has gone out there and created for streaming services. Parris, have you ever heard of Orion? Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, I did hear about Orion, which again was when I was thinking about this acquisition. I'm like, Orion's gonna play a key figure in their future plans with cloud streaming because it's amazing tech. To answer his question more specifically, I highly doubt it's been integrated this quickly because legally there's nothing done until this week, you know, as far as using anything from Bethesda. So this is probably still just obviously the legacy tech that Microsoft has already been using. But I would imagine, yeah, probably in the next year or two, you're going to see Orion get integrated into Project xCloud, and this is a part of them making that service more mainstream and more usable for people that don't want to pick up an Xbox.
Really, really cool.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Orion specifically, but the question does highlight, I think, another interesting aspect of this acquisition is like thinking about the totality of everything that Microsoft has purchased here, right? Like the stuff that is sexy on the surface is all these big names: Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom, Elder Scrolls, and we get that, like that's the headline. Like exclusivity, Game Pass, like that's what we've been talking about. But we've also talked a lot about, these great pools of institutional knowledge that are coming together. Bethesda and id and all these people have spent decades learning how to make games really, really well. Microsoft now kind of assimilates and absorbs all of that. Like, again, think about it now. Microsoft now owns id Tech, which is one of the best, 3D engines out there, right? id Software, John Carmack and the people there built some of the most incredible 3D tech and stuff that isn't sexy, like just a shitload of code that, like, I don't even know how it works. I just know that it helps make games better. And Microsoft now owns all of that. And like, I think we talked earlier about, 343 technology coming to Bethesda games. That's going to go the other way as well. Like Microsoft now can deploy id Tech, and not just because, we'll take this engine to use it, but like all the institutional knowledge that went into building it, they can now start picking those brains and picking things apart and thinking about how can this help us, make games more generally, or other specific titles that would benefit from id Tech type technologies, or a million other technologies you've never even heard about, but which are always kind of happening under the hood, proprietary things that Bethesda and id and Arcane and all these different studios have developed. They're going to start picking through all of these things and figuring out how they can use those things to their full potential. It's a huge long laundry list. You know how like when there's like patch notes for a game, it's like there's like the top 3 things that you're excited about, but then like a million other little changes that you don't go all the way down the list, but they all add up. That's what Microsoft's bought here. The above the fold items are those big franchises. But again, id Tech, Orion, millions of other little technologies and tools and systems and things that all of these studios have built over the years. It's going to take time, but Microsoft's going to start figuring out ways to use all of those things.
So cool. Nice eyes right there, Nano Biologist, and awesome for Parris to know about that and school me and Gary a little bit on that, and excited to see what the future holds. But an awesome week over here with Team Xbox, and of course for the Kind of Funny Xcast. It's been a whole lot of fun to talk Bethesda, a little bit of Halo sprinkled in there, and of course just to hang out with you two, the fortune teller, the king of all things I know is right, and of course my Dovahkiin, Mr. Parris Lilly. Parris, I had a great Friday with you. Tell everybody what you're doing this weekend, where they can find you, and let's get the heck out of here for the weekend.
I am going to probably be playing a lot of Wolfenstein, when probably I should be playing something else, but I'm going to be diving back into Wolfenstein in New Order. That's my plan for this weekend. Oh, one thing I meant to bring up. I played Going Under. It is fantastic. So thank you, Greg Miller, for the suggestion. I know you talked about it as last week, Mike. Fantastic game, and I had a blast with that. It is a really fun game. I suggest people, it's on Steam, it's on Xbox, go pick it up, because it was free last weekend, but I think now it's like $20 if you want to go buy it, right? It's a fantastic game. Absolutely, if you like a dungeon crawler with a quirky story about corporate, about the fall of corporations, it's really good. But played that last week, but yeah, a lot of Wolfenstein this week. And where you can find me is you can find me over at Gamertag Radio. Obviously, I'm here on Kind of Funny. And you can find me on Twitter at Vicious696. Oh, and my YouTube channel, which is my name, Parris, Parris.
Love that. And also check him out on Twitter Spaces, where I'm always listening in and checking out all the awesome things he's hosting. Because every single night I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's Parris again with a whole lot of cool people. So I'm definitely clicking on it and hanging out. And I actually really like Twitter Spaces. We'll talk about that some other time. But what I really like, Parris, is it's not like YouTube, where for me, I can click into your space and I can actually like turn my phone off and still listen to it and play it. Or I can go to a different app and still listen to it and play it in the background. I love that aspect, because I hate when I do it to YouTube and I like slip away and then YouTube stops playing. That's the worst.
That's where they get you with what was it, the YouTube Red or whatever? Whatever they call that subscription. Just you wait, man, because they're trying to figure out how to monetize Twitter. Just you wait. They'll do the same thing over there.
Parris will be selling tickets into the space and be like, Mike, that's a $5 ticket.
Well, if I could say one thing on Twitter Spaces, just so people understand what we're talking about. So, every few days I've been hosting a chat session Spaces, and I'll just have audience participation. I'm literally just doing a live Q&A. Bring people up, they'll ask a question, we'll talk about it. Usually about 45 minutes, an hour. I'll do been helping out Twitter beta test Twitter Spaces. So it's been cool. It's still a little buggy right now, but been a fun experience.
Been really cool to see. Of course, Mr. All the chips are on the table. I'm gonna be right no matter where, and sometimes I might be wrong, but I'm always right. My guy Gary Whitta. Gary Whitta, the Doomslayer. What you gonna be up to this weekend? Because I know you're gonna be playing some Grand Theft Auto role playing.
Yeah, we talked about it. This whole Grand Theft Auto role-playing thing is nothing new. It's been around for a few years. It's actually turned into like quite, I don't know how much you know about it, but it's insane. Like people go into these worlds and they have jobs. Like they work as doctors and cops and lawyers and EMTs and bank robbers, whatever it is you want to do. But it's like this fully functioning world that they've built inside this heavily modded version of Grand Theft Auto. I've been watching the streams for a while, found it fascinating. Finally got invited into one of these servers, and just yesterday created a character that I now embody. You go in there, you have to stay in character, you have to role play. You know, every time that you're talking to characters in the game, you're talking as the character that you're playing, not as yourself. So you really have to commit to this idea that you're gonna, it's almost like a comedy improv kind of thing that you're doing. You have to stay in character, but you can go into the world, find your own way, make friends, have adventures. I had a blast last night playing it. We'll be back on tonight, twitch.tv/Gary Whitta. And obviously people are going to be listening to this Saturday morning. You'll probably find me at that same location, twitch.tv/Gary Whitta, doing some Grand Theft Auto role-playing over the coming weekend.
I love that, Gary, and I can't wait to watch more of your role-playing antics.
So much fun.
It's pretty awesome, Gary. You're doing a really good job at that.
It's fun.
Of course, I'm one of your hosts, SnowBikeMike. I will be playing games. Of course, I'm going to go play through Oblivion right away because I can't wait to bust out my guidebook and have some fun with that and celebrate all the Bethesda fun memories that I enjoy so much. I'll also be playing some Crash Bandicoot 4, which has just been optimized for your Xbox Series X and S consoles. So really want to check out that optimization patch with that game. And finally, I'm going to do a fun fundraising/charity stream with my good friend, Steven Spahn of Able Gamers, for his birthday push. He's going to go out there and raise some money and some funds for incredible causes around the globe. So it's always nice to hook up with Able Gamers. It's always cool to talk with Steven Spahn. So you can catch that later this weekend. And of course, your FCF Wild Aces will play against the FCF Zappers. That's Johnny Football. That's Josh Gordon, the Flash. Will be taking on our team in the first round of the playoffs for the FCF Playoff Championship. And man, oh man, that's going to be a great matchup on Saturday night. So if you hear this early, come out there and support. If you miss it, go catch the game on VOD or maybe even on ESPN because the highlights have been out there because there's not much sports to talk about, which is pretty cool. That's all I have for all of you. Like I always tell you, be good to one another. Have some fun and play a bunch of games this weekend. We'll see you next week. Peace.